You're joining us for a deep dive today, and we're heading straight to Tanzania.
That's right.
The big story right now involves the upcoming elections, presidential and parliamentary, set for this October.
Hmm.
But a pretty major development has occurred. The main opposition party, Chadema, well, they've been barred from participating.
Yes, that's the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at an Al Jazeera report from April 12th, 2025, which really outlines a very significant situation.
Okay.
And for you, the listener, our mission today, our deep dive, is really to understand why this happened. What's the context?
Right, get beneath the surface.
Exactly. And the Al Jazeera report also highlights something else, something closely related. The chairman of Chadema, Tundu Lissu, is now facing very serious treason charges.
Treason? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we've got these two really intertwined issues to unpack.
Okay, so let's start with the decision itself. Barring Chadema, what's the official line? Why can't they run?
Well, the official reason, coming from the Independent National Elections Commission, or INE, is that Chadema failed to sign a mandatory code of conduct agreement.
A code of conduct?
Yes, and they apparently missed the deadline. The report quotes Ramahani Kalima. He's INE's director of elections.
Okay.
And he stated pretty bluntly, any party that did not sign the code of conduct will not participate in the general election.
So, just like that. No signing, no election.
Seems so, and it gets even more severe. He added that this disqualification isn't just for the October election.
Oh.
It extends to all by-elections right up until 2030.
2030, that's a long time out of the political process.
It's a very significant long-term exclusion.
Yeah, and the report mentioned Chadema hadn't immediately responded at the time it was published.
Not at that point. No immediate official comment was reported.
Okay. It does make you wonder about this code and why they wouldn't sign. But, as you said, there's this other piece. The timing feels noteworthy.
It really does. This announcement about being barred came just days after these treason charges were filed against Tundu Lissu.
Right, the party chairman.
Exactly. And these aren't minor charges. We're talking treason, inciting rebellion, and attempting to stop the elections.
Those are incredibly serious allegations. Inciting rebellion, attempting to stop elections.
Yes. Prosecutors claimed he was, urging the public to take action against the vote.
Wow. And the report noted he wasn't allowed to enter a plea.
Correct. At that stage, no plea was permitted, which, adds another layer to it.
And the potential penalty for treason, the report mentions the death sentence is a possibility.
It does. That really underscores the gravity of the situation, for him personally and for the party.
Absolutely. Puts everything in a very harsh light.
And Lissu, he's not exactly unknown, is he? He's a former presidential candidate himself.
Right, he ran before.
And he's been a very consistent, very vocal critic of the governing party, CCM.
Chama Chama Pinduzi.
Yes, and its leader, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who is, by the way, seeking her second term in these upcoming elections.
So a long history of opposition there.
Definitely. Which helps understand Chebis's position maybe a little better. It's important to remember they weren't exactly thrilled about the electoral process even before this happened.
Ah, yes. The report mentioned they'd already warned they might boycott, didn't it?
They had. They were saying quite clearly that unless they saw what they termed meaningful electoral reforms, they might just sit this one out.
So this wasn't entirely out of the blue from their side, perhaps. Their dissatisfaction, I mean.
Well, their dissatisfaction wasn't no. And interestingly, on the very same Saturday that INA announced the ban for not signing the code,
Yeah.
Chadema actually confirmed they had skipped the signing ceremony. Deliberately.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't an accident they chose not to sign.
It seems so. They framed it as, part of their ongoing campaign to push for changes, for those electoral reforms they felt were needed for a fair vote.
So not signing was a form of protest, it sounds like?
That appears to be their stance, yes.
Yes.
A calculated move, perhaps, though maybe they didn't anticipate this specific, very severe consequence of being barred until 2030.
This is where, the bigger picture starts to come into focus, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You've got the main opposition party kicked out of the election, their leader facing treason charges. It inevitably raises questions about, the state of democracy in Tanzania.
It does. And these kinds of events tend to attract international attention, raise concerns.
I imagine so.
And the Al Jazeera report does mention this broader context. Human rights groups, other opposition voices, they've been expressing growing concern.
About what specifically?
About what they describe as the government clamping down on dissent. There are specific, quite worrying claims cited.
Such as?
Things like a pattern of unexplained abductions, even killings, targeting political activists. These are very serious accusations.
Extremely serious. Abductions and killings.
Yeah, it paints a pretty grim picture if those accounts are accurate.
But we should be clear, the report also includes the government's perspective, right?
Yes, absolutely crucial to note that. President Hassan's government has consistently denied any involvement in these alleged abuses.
They deny it outright.
They do. They maintain their commitment to upholding human rights. And the ruling party, CCM, has also repeatedly rejected any accusation that they're trying to undermine the opposition or, manipulate the election.
So you have these two starkly contrasting narratives playing out.
Exactly. On one side, the government saying, we're committed to democracy and rights. And on the other, the opposition and rights groups saying, the space for dissent is shrinking and there are serious abuses happening.
It really highlights this fundamental disagreement about, well, the fairness of the whole system there.
It does. And it makes you circle back to those electoral reforms Chadema was demanding, doesn't it?
Yeah. What were they actually asking for?
The report doesn't detail the specifics of the reforms they wanted, but you have to wonder if they were connected to things like this code of conduct or the independence of INAC, perhaps.
That's a fair question. What led them to risk exclusion over this code?
It suggests the stakes around those reforms were very high from their perspective.
Okay, so let's just recap the key points here. We have Chadema, the main opposition, barred from the elections. Official reason, not signing a code of conduct.
Correct. And that ban extends to 2030.
Then their chairman, Tundu Lissu, a longtime government critic, is facing treason charges.
Yes, very serious charges, announced just before the election ban.
And this follows Chadema already threatening a boycott because they wanted electoral reforms.
Reforms they clearly felt were essential for fair participation.
Right. And all of this is happening against a backdrop of, well, serious accusations about the democratic space and human rights.
Accusations which the government strongly denies.
Okay. It's a complex web.
It really is. These events are deeply interconnected, and they undoubtedly raise fundamental questions about how inclusive, how credible the upcoming elections can be without the main opposition participating.
Yeah, their absence alone is going to change the whole dynamic, won't it?
Significantly.
Yep.
It impacts the political landscape, public perception, everything.
So thinking about this whole sequence, the demands for reform, the refusal to sign the charges, the ban, it really forces you to consider the challenges involved in making sure elections are truly fair and credible.
Especially in environments where there's already, significant political tension and distrust.
What does this situation perhaps suggest about maybe the difficulties in balancing government authority with the space needed for a robust opposition? It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How do you ensure everyone feels they can genuinely participate?
That's the critical question, I think.
Yeah.
And one that observers will be watching very closely in Tanzania leading up to October.